You know, I think one of the hardest things we ever learn as adults is how to say no without crumbling under guilt. And if we're being honest, most of us don't really say no. We say things like maybe, or let me think about it, or it's fine, I can do it, even though every cell in our body is whispering, please don't. A few years ago, I realized something uncomfortable about myself. I wasn't overcommitted because people were demanding too much. I was overcommitted because I was terrified of disappointing anyone. And the research backs this up. When we're afraid of disconnection, we overpromise, we become what psychologists call self-abandoning, choosing others' comfort over our own boundaries. And here's the truth I had to face. Every time I said yes while wishing I'd said no, I was trading short-term relief for long-term resentment. Saying a graceful no isn't about pushing people away. It's about showing up honestly, without the weight of guilt or the performance of pretending. It's about choosing integrity over exhaustion. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's the kind of discomfort that leads to freedom. So today, I want to talk about the power of a graceful no. Not the angry no, not the panicked no, not the last minute, I can't do this anymore, no. But the honest, steady, grounded no that protects your energy, your relationships, and your well-being. A graceful no is an act of integrity, not rejection. And I know that sounds simple on the surface, almost like a nice quote you'd save on your phone. But living it is a very different story. Most of us don't struggle with no because we don't understand boundaries. We struggle because we've been taught in big ways and small ways that saying no threatens our belonging. So when someone asks us for something, our time, our energy, our emotional bandwidth, our first instinct is often to protect the relationship, even if we have to abandon ourselves a little to do it. But here's what I've learned, sometimes the hard way. When I say yes while wishing I'd said no, I'm not offering kindness, I'm offering compliance. Compliance looks polite on the outside, but on the inside, it erodes trust. Trust with myself and eventually trust with the people I care about. Integrity asks us to line up our words with our truth. And that alignment is uncomfortable, especially if you've spent a lifetime trying to be easy, available, or undemanding. When I started paying attention to my own patterns, I realized most of my knee-jerk yeses came from fear, not generosity. Fear of disappointing someone, fear of being seen as difficult, fear that I wouldn't be liked if I protected my time. And fear has this way of dressing itself up like responsibility. It tells you, it's fine, you can handle it, or you don't want them to think you're selfish. But what fear never tells you is the cost, the emotional hangover, the exhaustion, the resentment that quietly builds every time you betray your own boundaries. Research on healthy relationships highlights something really important. People feel safer with us when our words are honest and consistent, not when they're nice. Nice is often about comfort. Integrity is about clarity. Clarity might feel harsher in the moment. Saying, I can't commit to that, or that doesn't work for me, feels like you're risking the relationship. But the truth is, the people who value you don't want your burnout version. They want the real you, the one who shows up willingly, with energy that's not borrowed from resentment. A graceful no isn't cold. It's steady. It's rooted in respect for both people. I'm not rejecting you. I'm honoring me so I can show up more honestly with you. And I'll tell you the surprising thing that happened when I began practicing this kind of no, even shakily, even with a tiny before the words, my relationships got stronger. The people who mattered didn't pull away, they leaned in. They trusted me more because they didn't have to decode my yeses. When I said yes, they knew I meant it. When I said no, they knew it wasn't personal, it was alignment. Integrity creates reliability, and reliability is one of the deepest forms of respect we can offer the people in our lives and ourselves. So a graceful no isn't a door closing, it's a foundation strengthening. It's the quiet, courageous choice to be authentic instead of agreeable. It's the moment you decide that your worth isn't attached to how much you give, but to how honestly you live. Most resentment is born quietly from the yes we never wanted to give. And I think this is one of those truths we all recognize the moment we hear it, because we've lived it, sometimes for years without naming it. Resentment doesn't come crashing in like anger. It doesn't announce itself with shouting or slammed doors. It's slow, subtle, almost polite. It builds in the background, drip by drip, every time we silence our real feelings to keep the peace or hold a relationship together. The tricky part is resentment disguises itself at first. It looks like being tired. It looks like being busy. It sounds like it's fine, really, even though it's not fine at all. And the uncomfortable thing I had to learn about myself is that resentment is almost always self-betrayal and camouflage. Not because we're bad people or weak, but because we're afraid that saying what we really need will cost us love or acceptance. When I began studying the emotional patterns behind resentment, I found something that made me pause. Resentment isn't actually about the other person, it's about us. It's what happens when we keep saying yes out of obligation, fear, or guilt instead of honesty. And the more we override our boundaries, the more resentment builds. Not because someone forced us into something, but because we didn't give ourselves permission to be honest. I remember a moment when someone asked me for a favor. It wasn't a huge thing, it was a normal request. And I said yes immediately, like muscle memory. But inside, I felt that tiny pinch of, I really didn't have the capacity for this. At the time, I brushed it off. I told myself, it's fine, you can manage. But by the time I actually did the thing, I was irritated, not at them, but at myself. Because the truth is, the resentment didn't come from the request. It came from my lack of boundaries. Most of us don't think about how resentment affects the way we show up in relationships. It changes our tone, it changes our energy, it changes the way we talk to people. And even though we might try to hide it because we want to be kind or supportive, resentment leaks through. You can hear it in the sighs, the clipped sentences, the small frustrations that seem out of proportion. We start keeping score. I'm always the one doing this. Why doesn't anyone check on me? And suddenly a relationship that could have been healthy becomes heavy, not because of one big moment, but because of years of unspoken no's. A graceful no, honest and steady, stops resentment before it begins. It's saying, oh, I care about you enough to be truthful, instead of I'll give you what you want and then resent you for it later. That's not generosity, that's martyrdom. Generosity comes from abundance. Martyrdom comes from depletion. What I've learned is that resentment is the cost of abandoning your own limits. And the antidote isn't over-explaining or apologizing. It's clarity. It's the courage to say, I can't take this on, even if your voice shakes a little. It's trusting that the relationship can hold the truth, not just the version of you that's always agreeable. Because in the end, protecting your boundaries protects your connection too. A relationship built on truth is stronger than one built on silent sacrifices. And when your yes is real and your no is honest, resentment doesn't stand a chance. Our nervous system responds to overcommitment as a threat. And I know that sounds dramatic at first, almost like we're comparing agreeing to help someone move or taking on an extra project to running from a wild animal. But the body doesn't really differentiate between emotional overwhelm and physical danger. Stress is stress. And when we push past our limits again and again, our nervous system reacts as if we're under attack. What surprised me when I first dug into the research was how quickly our bodies pick up on those early signals of too much. Long before we say the yes we don't want to give, our bodies are already whispering, hey, this is going to cost us. Maybe it's that tight feeling in your chest. Maybe it's the slight clench in your jaw. Maybe it's that internal sigh that you pretend isn't happening. These aren't small things. They're your nervous system waving a tiny flag, hoping you'll pay attention. The problem is most of us have been trained, especially people who identify as helpers, caregivers, or the strong one, to override those signals. We treat exhaustion like a personality trait. We treat burnout like a badge of honor. And we confuse being needed with being valued. So we ignore what our bodies are trying to tell us because slowing down or saying no feels risky, like we might let someone down. But here's the truth. Every time we override those signals, we activate the stress response. The body shifts into survival mode. Cortisol increases, our breathing changes, our ability to emotionally regulate drops. And the wild part is, this can happen from something as simple as agreeing to a responsibility that we know we don't have the capacity for. not because the task is dangerous, but because the self-abandonment feels like danger. When you're consistently overcommitted, your nervous system ends up living in a state of hypervigilance. You start feeling jumpy, impatient, overwhelmed by small things. Your sleep gets lighter, your creativity drops, and your tolerance thins. It's not a character flaw, it's biology. It's your body trying to protect you from what it perceives as chronic threat. And this is why a graceful no is so powerful. It's not just an emotional boundary, it's a physiological one. When you say, I can't take that on, or that doesn't work for me, your nervous system exhales literally. Your body shifts from threat to safety. And safety is where clarity, compassion, connection, and emotional presence live. You cannot be constantly overwhelmed and fully present at the same time. Your body just isn't wired that way. I remember a moment when someone asked me to commit to something during a period when I was already stretched thin, and I felt that small tightening inside. For once, instead of brushing past it, I paused. I said, I want to support you, but I don't have the capacity right now. And the relief I felt wasn't just emotional, it was physical. My shoulders dropped, my breathing steadied. It was like my body said, finally, you're listening. Our bodies keep score of every yes we force, every boundary we ignore, every limit we pretend we don't have. And eventually they speak louder through anxiety, exhaustion, or burnout, until we can't ignore them anymore. A graceful no is how we choose regulation over reaction, alignment over overwhelm, and honesty over performance. It's how we tell our nervous system, you're safe, I'm not going to abandon you. And that sense of safety, that grounding, becomes the foundation for showing up in our lives with more presence, more energy, and more authenticity. A graceful no teaches others how to treat you. And I think this is one of those lessons we don't fully appreciate until we see the pattern play out in real time. People don't learn our boundaries because we think them or quietly hope they'll be understood. They learn them from what we consistently allow, what we consistently say, and what we consistently follow through on. And that consistency is where most of us get tangled up. For years, I used to assume that the people in my life should just know when I was overwhelmed. They should know when I was helping beyond my capacity. They should feel that I needed rest. But the truth is, people aren't mind readers. They react to the cues we give them. And when the cues say, sure, I can take that on, even when we're drowning, we unintentionally teach them that our time, energy, and emotional bandwidth are flexible, expandable, and always available. What I eventually realized is that a boundary is not a wall, it's information. And information, when given clearly and kindly, helps people engage with us in healthier, more respectful ways. There's a study in social psychology that shows something really fascinating. Humans rely heavily on patterns when deciding how to interact with someone. If your pattern is to always say yes, people will keep asking, not because they're selfish, but because that's what the pattern teaches them. If your pattern is to overextend, people learn that's normal for you. If your pattern is to prioritize everyone else first, people will assume you're comfortable with that role. When we start practicing a graceful no, we interrupt the pattern, not with anger, not with sharpness, but with clarity. The first few times you say no, it might feel like you're rewriting a script everyone else memorized. You may even notice pushback, not because people want to disrespect you, but because a familiar pattern is changing. Change always creates a little friction, but as the new pattern becomes consistent, people begin to adjust. They recalibrate, and slowly they learn the truth that your time matters, your capacity matters, your emotional well-being matters. I remember saying no to someone who had gotten used to my automatic yeses. They paused for a moment, confused at first, and then said, I didn't realize you had so much on your plate. And it struck me, how could they realize it when I never let them see it? A boundary isn't just a protection of your limits. It's visibility. It's letting people actually see you, not the version of you who performs endless availability. A graceful no also creates mutual respect. When you show people that your capacity is real and finite, It gives them permission to honor their own limits too. It normalizes honesty. It normalizes checking in with yourself before offering something. It normalizes valuing connection enough to be truthful rather than pretending and resenting. And here's the part that always feels surprising, even now. The right people don't walk away when you set boundaries. The right people lean in, they listen, they adjust, they appreciate the clarity because your no tells them something profound. I want to be in relationship with you in a way that's sustainable and real. A graceful no teaches people how to love you without losing you. It teaches them how to stay connected to the version of you that's whole, present, and honest. And that lesson, once learned, makes every relationship stronger. A graceful no creates space for a more meaningful yes. And I think this is one of the most liberating realizations we can have about boundaries. We sometimes imagine that every no is a closed door, a missed opportunity, or a disappointment to someone. But the truth is, every no is also an opening for clarity, for alignment, for choosing what genuinely matters, instead of defaulting to what's expected. For so long, I thought saying yes was the path to connection. I thought availability was love, that agreeing to everything was generosity, that being endlessly accommodating made me reliable. But what I eventually learned is that a life filled with automatic yeses doesn't create purpose. It creates noise. It clutters your calendar, drains your energy, and crowds out your ability to invest deeply in the things that actually bring meaning. And here's the part. We often don't realize until much later. Every yes costs something. When you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you're indirectly saying no to something that does. You're saying no to rest, no to creativity, no to stillness, no to relationships that need more of you, no to opportunities that align with your values, no to the version of you that wants to show up fully, not partially. There's a research finding about attention and motivation that I come back to often. Humans have limited emotional bandwidth. We can't engage deeply with everything. We can't be present everywhere. We can't offer wholehearted energy to every request. And when our bandwidth is stretched thin by obligations we never wanted to take on, our ability to say a meaningful yes gets lost. It's like trying to hear a whispered truth in a room full of noise. A graceful no clears the room. It creates the kind of spaciousness where your real desires can actually breathe. It allows you to pause and ask, does this matter to me? Does this align with who I want to be? Does this reflect my values or someone else's expectation? And those questions, those moments of internal honesty, are where meaningful yeses live. I remember a season when I was overwhelmed, running from one commitment to the next, thinking I was being productive. But the truth was, I wasn't being intentional. I was being reactive. And the more reactive I became, the more disconnected I felt from myself. It wasn't until I started saying no to the things that drained me that I finally felt a shift. Suddenly there was room for projects that lit me up, room for quiet mornings, room for deeper conversations, room for the yeses I'd been too exhausted to notice before. And that experience taught me a simple but profound lesson. Saying no isn't selfish, it's stewardship. It's taking responsibility for your energy so you can offer it where it truly counts. It's protecting the parts of your life that deserve your full attention instead of the leftovers. A meaningful yes doesn't come from guilt or pressure or fear of letting someone down. It comes from presence, from intention, from a grounded sense of self that knows what matters and is willing to protect the space needed for it. A graceful no is not the end of something. It's the beginning of something better, something chosen, something aligned, something wholehearted. And so when we talk about the power of a graceful no, what we're really talking about is the power to choose a life that's rooted in truth instead of performance. A life where your yes means something because it comes from a place of intention, not obligation. A life where you don't disappear inside the expectations of others, but show up whole, honest, and grounded in your own worth. Saying no, kindly, clearly, courageously, isn't about distancing yourself from people. It's about showing up in relationships without the weight of resentment, without the exhaustion of overcommitment, without the quiet fear that you have to earn your belonging by sacrificing yourself. A graceful no is an act of self-respect. It's an act of honesty, it's an act of faith that the people who truly care about you can handle your truth. And the more you practice it, the more you start to feel something shift inside you. There's a steadiness that replaces the old guilt, a calm that replaces the constant overwhelm, a deeper sense of alignment that whispers, "This is who I am, this is what I can give, and this is enough." When you protect your time, you protect your energy. When you protect your energy, you protect your joy. And when you protect your joy, you start building a life that feels meaningful. Not because it's full, but because it's aligned. You are allowed to choose what fits, what nourishes you, what honors your values, and what reflects the person you're becoming. You are allowed to step back from the things that drain you and step forward into the things that matter. You are allowed to say no without apologizing for having limits, because limits don't make you less worthy. They make you human. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you from this message, it's this. A graceful no isn't the opposite of love, it's the foundation of it. It's how we stay honest, stay connected, and stay true to ourselves in a world that constantly asks for more. So be brave enough to pause, brave enough to choose, brave enough to disappoint the expectations that were never aligned with you in the first place, and brave enough to believe that your yes is far too precious to be given away without intention. Good luck, and may your no's be graceful, and your yeses be wholehearted. A graceful no clears the room. It creates the kind of spaciousness where your real desires can actually breathe. It allows you to pause and ask, does this matter to me? Does this align with who I want to be? Does this reflect my values or someone else's expectation? And those questions, those moments of internal honesty, are where meaningful yeses live. I remember a season when I was overwhelmed, running from one commitment to the next, thinking I was being productive. But the truth was, I wasn't being intentional. I was being reactive. And the more reactive I became, the more disconnected I felt from myself. It wasn't until I started saying no to the things that drained me that I finally felt a shift. Suddenly there was room for projects that lit me up, room for quiet mornings, room for deeper conversations, room for the yeses I'd been too exhausted to notice before. And that experience taught me a simple but profound lesson. Saying no isn't selfish, it's stewardship. It's taking responsibility for your energy so you can offer it where it truly counts. It's protecting the parts of your life that deserve your full attention instead of the leftovers. A meaningful yes doesn't come from guilt or pressure or fear of letting someone down. It comes from presence, from intention, from a grounded sense of self that knows what matters and is willing to protect the space needed for it. A graceful no is not the end of something. It's the beginning of something better, something chosen, something aligned, something wholehearted. And so when we talk about the power of a graceful no, what we're really talking about is the power to choose a life that's rooted in truth instead of performance. A life where your yes means something because it comes from a place of intention, not obligation. A life where you don't disappear inside the expectations of others, but show up whole, honest, and grounded in your own worth. Saying no, kindly, clearly, courageously, isn't about distancing yourself from people. It's about showing up in relationships without the weight of resentment, without the exhaustion of overcommitment, without the quiet fear that you have to earn your belonging by sacrificing yourself. A graceful no is an act of self-respect. It's an act of honesty, it's an act of faith that the people who truly care about you can handle your truth. And the more you practice it, the more you start to feel something shift inside you. There's a steadiness that replaces the old guilt, a calm that replaces the constant overwhelm, a deeper sense of alignment that whispers, "This is who I am, this is what I can give, and this is enough." When you protect your time, you protect your energy. When you protect your energy, you protect your joy. And when you protect your joy, you start building a life that feels meaningful. Not because it's full, but because it's aligned. You are allowed to choose what fits, what nourishes you, what honors your values, and what reflects the person you're becoming. You are allowed to step back from the things that drain you and step forward into the things that matter. You are allowed to say no without apologizing for having limits, because limits don't make you less worthy. They make you human. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you from this message, it's this. A graceful no isn't the opposite of love, it's the foundation of it. It's how we stay honest, stay connected, and stay true to ourselves in a world that constantly asks for more. So be brave enough to pause, brave enough to choose, brave enough to disappoint the expectations that were never aligned with you in the first place, and brave enough to believe that your yes is far too precious to be given away without intention. Good luck, and may your no's be graceful and your yeses be wholehearted.